if you've used large language models like ChatGPT, and you go ask those models, can you write me the best screenplay in the world? And it'll give you something. And it's nowhere even close to the best screenplay in the world. It's actually usually pretty bad.
We are here with Brett Stuart, who is the head of AI filmmaking at Staircase Studio. They're making some waves because they are making very inexpensive films out of AI. Brett, thank you so much for being here to explain all of this. So the first film I believe that's coming out is The Woman with Red Hair. And I've seen a few minutes of it. It looks extremely well done. But what was interesting to me is that you are using actors. There are still actors involved with this. So explain what an AI film really is.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for having me here and happy to discuss this. But we at Staircase Studios, we really believe that having a human in the loop is an important art aspect for AI filmmaking. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do as far as pressing a button and generating an image or pressing a button and generating a video. But some of the best films in the AI space that people are working on have real level of artistry in them. And I think when you bring in actors to do a performance, we're going to get that similar kind of thing. So we kind of want to work with the artists that are out there, whether these are the directors, people who are really great using the AI tools, to the actors that give performances. We believe that these new tools it's really what they are. They're just new tools. And it's like before we had CGI, before that we had cameras, and we see this more of as an addition to what's out there as opposed to something that's going to replace it. So yeah, we're working with a lot of really great talent, and we're excited to bring a bunch of new films with this new medium.
Yeah, I think I'd seen one of your colleagues basically explain this as complementing what's out there, which is interesting because obviously the fear is that everyone is going to be replaced. So
Sure.
what you're doing now, it does seem like it's a compliment because you're still working with actors. Down the road, though, do you think AI is going to be so good that we're not even going to need actors?
You know, it's a great question. And I don't think anyone, if they give you, say, this is what the future of AI looks like, you don't know whether or not that's going to be true or not. And I think what's going to happen in 5 years or 10 years is really anyone's guess. So all we can really focus on is what we can do right now. And what we can do right now is the best level of artistry is working with artists. And I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. If you've used large language models like ChatGPT or, there's a bunch out there now. And you go ask those models, can you write me the best screenplay in the world? You punch it in and it'll give you something. And it's nowhere even close to the best screenplay in the world. It's actually usually pretty bad. And you can do similar things with filmmaking too. There's a lot of people working on tools where it's like it'll stitch a bunch of videos together and it'll say, here's a film, but is it a good one? And I think the future, at least the near future, is there will be a lot more content, but I do think that there's still going to be a small catalog of really good content. And that's going to come from the best artists. It's going to come from the best directors, the best actors, and the best storytellers.
To be the best moving forward, are you going to need to understand how to integrate AI?
So I think as far as having to integrate I think it's a useful thing that when a new technology is coming out like this, to see how you could use it to improve what you're doing. And I think people in the film industry are already trying to do this, not as really a replacement, but just how do we improve our stories and tell them better and more efficiently? A really good example of this was on the latest Dune movie. In that film, a lot of the characters in the story, they have blue eyes. And to change eye color, believe it or not, is actually a pretty time-intensive thing to do traditionally to make them blue. It's expensive and it takes a lot of time. And what they ended up doing is they trained an AI model on their first film to make it a lot more easy on the second film to change the color of their eyes to be blue, as opposed to needing to go in by hand and actually change it all. Really, it's pretty laborious process to do that. So little things like that, I think, are what you're going to see in the larger ecosystem, AI being integrated right away. It's a way to make people's lives easier and achieve things faster. But what we're trying to do is kind of pushing the boundaries on the other side. Well, can we do the entire film for a lot cheaper? under $500,000, for example, and then engage scripts that otherwise wouldn't have been able to have been made, and films that, maybe they could only make $10 million total, something like that. So, a large studio doesn't want to fund something. If it costs 70 million to make, it's hard to justify spending the money for that for them on a film that maybe only would make 10. So it's something like that. So I think it's useful to incorporate these things, but it's like
So your point is
I think,
perhaps more content can be made because it's not costing as much to make it.
there definitely will be a lot more content. I absolutely believe that. I think there may be a tsunami of new content coming out. There's things that you see, or that I've seen in the space, in the AI space, where people are just trying to automate YouTube videos where there's no one even involved. It's just punch it into ChatGPT, it puts out a script that goes in. It's just a big automated pipeline that's just churning out videos. Now, the quality of those videos is going to be really, really bad. But if that's all you cared about was just content, you could do it. But again, it's kind of tying back into what I was saying earlier. I really think that the best stuff, the best stories is going to come from the artists. It's going to come from the really good writers, the really good directors. And these are just tools that empower those people as opposed to replace them. I don't
How are
really see
you
that happening.
seeing artists and writers use AI? Are you seeing them integrate it into their practice?
Yeah, I am. And so just from the writing perspective, ChatGPT, from what I've seen so far, really bad at writing an original story. But someone who is a really good story writer can use these tools kind of as a backboard. And so they have ideas and they're trying to distill those down more quickly and without, how do you break through writer's block, something like that. AI is a fantastic tool to bounce your ideas off of it, to think about what's in your own head in a different way. And so that's a way that I've seen different screenwriters or story writers kind of engage the tools. Even from the artistic point of view of sketches and pre-visualization for films, you can very quickly iterate. It's not necessarily a final, something you can put on a screen, but it's something that you can very quickly, what's the mood like for this film? And you can make a trailer, like a 2-minute trailer, very, very quickly just to see, is this the right vibe for the type of story that I'm trying to tell? So right now, it speeds up workflows to iterate, doesn't really replace them from what
Well,
I've seen.
so you're saying you're trying to push the boundaries and you are head of AI filmmaking. So what does it mean for a film to be AI? Because you are still using human actors. So where is the AI in that process? Is it
Mhm.
creating the screenplay? Is it visual or basically making it a cartoon? What does the AI do in an AI film?
Sure, sure. So right now, the primary use for AI is going to be in the visuals. And so the story, right, at least for what we're doing at Staircase, uh, we're going to be working with very talented screenwriters, even from the director side of things, talented directors and actors. Where we're bringing in the AI is the visuals. And so, what do the characters look like when they move around? This might be something that's realistic. This might be something that is a cartoon. This might be something that's something in between, like a 3D or a CG movie that we're used to, like the Pixar type movies. So it's bringing the visuals to life is where the AI comes in, not in coming up with the story. So, as a very simple example, let's say instead of building a set in real life or building a set using tools like the drawings that someone would do for a traditional 2D movie or a 3D movie,
Yeah.
we would use the AI tools to make those sets instead. And
Okay.
so, but it's still an artist behind those deciding what those sets look like. So it's just another tool, really, is what for visuals.
And right now, essentially, they all have to be, I don't know if this is a correct term, but cartoons is of some sort. Do you think they
For
can, for
now,
now? Okay, so that would suggest it isn't going to be the case forever.
I think and I'm happy to provide some examples to you guys, but I think that the technology is going to be pushing the boundary of looking identical or near identical to traditional film very, very soon. We're not quite there yet, at least in the performance department. There's this, if you're familiar with the uncanny valley, it's where something is kind of close to being real, but not quite. And
Mm.
people are pretty good at detecting that. Like there's something off about this picture, and I don't know what it is. And this happened in CG films when those first started getting pretty big. And that's kind of there in AI space. But I think 6 to 12 months from now, it's going to get pretty close to indistinguishable. It's going to look completely real. So you don't need the full set. You can do it all within a tool to build the set that looks real.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's
I
what's
mean, that
coming.
certainly is going to change the industry if you are in set making or any of these different spaces.
Certainly. I think it's good, just like, you know, CG changed the way 2D films were made. This is going to change the way that traditional films are made. I don't think it's really a replacement. I think there's a place for the large budget films to exist. And so I see that these tools are going to simply allow for more storytelling as opposed to a replacement of the storytelling that already exists today. So, but that means we're going to get a lot more movies and a lot more stories as a result of that.
We already have so much content. Oh my gosh, how are we going to choose what to watch? You know,
That's a
after
good question.
the Hollywood actor and writer strike, one of their big sticking points was they wanted certain things in the contract about what AI could or couldn't do. So does that hamper you at all, or do you feel that it's sort of lenient enough that you can kind of do whatever you need to do still with AI filmmaking?
No, I don't think it hampers at all. And I think that it's a good idea to make sure that people who are in this industry to look at their interests and make sure that they're being protected from new innovative technology. At the same time, we want to work with those actors that does respect their craft, that does respect everything that they've already put into this industry, not to replace them, but to work with them. We really just see this as a new tool to help us tell more stories and stories that just wouldn't necessarily get told otherwise. That's what The Woman with Red Hair is. It's a film that was on referred to as the Blacklist, where there was a lot of people in Hollywood who wanted to be able to tell this story. It things fell apart, just things didn't add up, and now here's a chance we can actually tell this really phenomenal story that otherwise would have fallen through the cracks. So we see it as an opportunity for artists to kind of bring this through as opposed to replacing it.
Interesting. There was a bit of a scandal, that might be too aggressive of a word, around The Brutalist, that basically they were
Mm,
using AI technology to enhance the Hungarian accent, the Hungarian accent of the lead characters.
mm.
Um, and it seems like that kind of just came out because somebody happened to mention it in an interview. I've got to think there's a lot more films that are doing similar things and they're just not disclosing it. Is that fair? Are there examples of that?
As far as the examples, it's hard to specifically point to them, but I can say that there's a lot of people that do work in Hollywood that I bumped shoulders with that are very excited about using this technology because it's an empowering thing. It allows them, they have this idea, this story, or this script that never was going to see the light of day, but
Mm.
this is an opportunity for them to bring it to light. It's like it's their baby that they've been working on for 10 years that no large studio wanted to pick up. And now this is an opportunity for them to tell that story. So I do think that there's a lot more people in this industry that are excited for it, that may be a little bit too scared at the moment because of potential backlash or the belief that this is going to just destroy everything, which is not at all what I think this is going to do. But I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see more and more of those people come out and say, hey, actually, I am excited, or you're going to see these kind of introduced into larger projects moving forward, just because it makes sense from a financial perspective, but also from an empowering creatives
Mhm.
perspective too, to do more with less money. And I think that's an empowering thing, not a destroying thing.
And so it kind of sounds like the way you're talking about it too. It's people, artists, actors, everyone's using it sort of individually to help themselves. So it seems like in that case, you know, the screenwriter still owns their IP, even though AI has helped them a little bit. Everyone still owns their IP the way they would have before.
They absolutely, yeah. And that's I mean, because we're as far as scripts are concerned, we're making sure that they're getting paid industry rates. We're acquiring scripts for our own IPs. They're included in profit share. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do because we're a startup, because we're trying to stay small and nimble. We can actually, all the artists that are involved, whether it's the actors or the screenwriter, they can actually get a bigger cut of what the revenue that comes back for our projects Whereas you have these much larger organizations, they usually don't get that kind of a cut in the reward. And so we see them actually potentially, hopefully, making more money by working with us as opposed to a smaller amount on a much larger project.
When you were casting actors, did you get the sense from them that they were worried they might be replaced down the road?
We've been really fortunate that a lot of the actors that we worked with were really excited about this because it's new, it's interesting, and we didn't really get a lot of the concern during that casting process. There was definitely some hesitation, like because the visuals hadn't been made yet, and it was definitely like, oh, is this gonna look weird or bad or and we're not all the way there yet to get the visuals to be perfect. But no, I think that there was more excitement than there was hesitation to be a part of something new. And yeah, I think that was more of our experience so far.
So, how long did it take you to make this film? What is the process exactly? Walk me through it. So, you still obviously have to get the screenplay and cast the characters, but then beyond that, what do you do? What does it look like?
What's funny is so my background is in animation and it's much more similar to an animation film than it is a traditional film.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is you kind of work backwards. You have to already have in mind these are the exact camera shots, they're the exact angles
Huh.
for a scene first before you actually go and put it together. Whereas if you're on a set, you have a little bit more wiggle room as far as kind of finding the right performance and finding the right angles, even though people create storyboards to visualize it. And so the process though is working very closely with the screenwriter is what we're focusing on first of what do each one of these sequences look like in the film. Once we have those storyboarded, a lot of detail in that, then we move on to, okay, what does the scene look like? What does the environment look like? What do the characters look like? And we build a lot of these assets, similar to, again, going to, something like Pixar's Toy Story. They would actually, you do a lot of the animation before even you know what the final film looked like. And so it's a little bit closer to that kind of a film making workflow.
Interesting. So, how many people were involved with making this versus how many people would be involved making this film if it wasn't AI?
Yeah, I think because the goal of this is to keep it within a certain budget of less than 500,000, we're probably going to be trying to complete each one of these films. I mean, I think there's about 18 total actors because there's a lot of different actors that are involved. That might not be the exact number, but it's around there. And then from the artist perspective, there's a screenwriter, there's a director, and then there's the AI artists that are kind of combining everything into these visuals, and probably about 4 to 5 artists on top of that. So you're looking at, somewhere in the 20s total
Wow.
to create the entire film. So it's not one person
Versus
in
how
there.
many people normally would it take to create a film?
Well, it depends on the scope of the film, certainly. Large animation studios, for example, may have something like 100 to 200 animators because it's very time intensive to do a sequence in an animated film. An animator might work on 30 seconds for 2 months. And so to do an entire film, you have to scale that up to do something like that. What these tools allow is the artists, we can do a lot more quickly. So one artist would be able to do 3 minutes to 5 minutes of the film, as opposed to here's the 30 seconds of the film in that same time period. And so it just allows artists to do more, is what these tools allow.
Okay. And what is the timeline? Like, how long would this film take if you were not using AI versus how long did it take with AI?
That's really a to be determined, I think, because no one's really, I mean, I guess there's maybe been one, but since this is so new, how long it's going to take to make a film, we're still figuring out the exact timeline for something like that. But and this is a educated evaluation of this, anywhere between I'd say 5 to 6 months is a good starting place for where the technology is right now. And films usually are taking like 18 months to actually produce, kind of from end to end with
Okay.
more traditional workflows. So it is speeding up probably by about 3 times
Wow.
with the tools, something like that.
And we're just getting started. So presumably this is going to improve.
Certainly, yeah, this is definitely going to get better. So you're going to be able to make more, certainly, which means, yeah, there's going to be a lot more content out there. And I'm sure people are going to be like, where are the good ones? Where are the good films? Because there's going to just be a new tsunami of content. But it reminds me a little bit of YouTube, though, because there's hundreds of millions, maybe I think that's probably correct, the right number of videos on YouTube. And how do you find a channel or a creator that you really resonate with? Well, there are tools that YouTube creates to help you find those videos. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's certain things like that that show up for feature films in the future, because there's going to be a lot more of them.
How has this been received in Hollywood? Are people skeptical? Are they concerned about potential ethics violations? What's been the feedback you've gotten?
It's definitely a mixed bag. And I think with any kind of disruptive technology, that's to be expected. And, I think that hopefully, kind of the way that we're creating our studio, a staircase, where we really have the strong belief of always having a human in the loop, whether at every point of the filmmaking process, that can help alleviate some of these fears of I'm going to be replaced by the AI overlords. That's not really what the future looks like. It's more of an empowering tool as opposed to a replacing tool. So there's hesitation, certainly, by a lot of them. I mean, I'm certainly not someone who's had 20 years background in the industry. I come more from the animation side of things. But I think there's also there's some positive too, because like I said before, there's stories that just would not have been told, that this is going to allow them to be told. And I'm excited. I'm optimistic, or obviously I wouldn't be in this field, that some of the best movies are coming, because stories that just never would have seen the light of day, maybe even the best stories that were ever written, now are going to actually be shown on the big screen. So I'm looking forward to that as someone who enjoys films, who enjoys working on films, to this future, because I think, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we really care about is the end product. Is it a good story? And I'm looking forward to that.
There's going to be a lot more content to filter through. Anything else that we should touch on, or
Yeah.
anything juicy that you can share about what you're up to next?
Yeah. I mean, we're building the studio, and so we're hiring talented artists that can help us make the films. We're looking at a lot of different screenplays to make new TV shows and feature length films. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, juicy. It's where, we're gonna put our heads down and get to creating. I think is really what the next few years look like, and hopefully that what we create are films and TV shows that people resonate with, and yeah, that's more what the future looks like for us, and where our focus will be.
That's a wrap on today's episode of New York Next. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. You can also catch us on the New York Post YouTube channel. And of course, be sure to follow us on social media for the latest updates and behind-the-scenes content. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. Join the conversation and let us know what you think.